judge put it at 250 because she thought that the 150 was too low. But I agree with the Muse on this one that this has nothing to do with the racial narrative on each side. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit this case. The larger, broader cultural discussion doesn't fit this case. This is a case of two
But it's still
teenagers
being used
getting into a fight
nonetheless.
and a kid being died.
Whether it fits it or not, it doesn't matter. It's still being used as a lightning
It
rod
is.
to divide the
It
country.
is being used.
You can
It is
Amuse.
being
You
used.
can Amuse. Go ahead.
And
Yeah,
I don't
so,
agree with
I mean, there-
Tariq Nasheed either. That dude is a fucking. He was being completely racist, trying
Well,
to
I just
gear up
real
this
quick.
race
I
war.
want to cite the proper statistic here for re-ups. It says right here, young black males aged 20 to 24 commit the highest proportion of homicides in the U.S. based on the FBI arrest data and CDC statistics. Black individuals are about 13% of the population, accounted for roughly 26 to 50% of homicide arrests in the last few years, with males dominating across groups. That is so. So there you go. There's your statistics. We're gonna let Kevin and then Amuse.
And what I said was, you're talking
Kevin and then Amuse. Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry, you guys.
You're talking about 1% of the black population.
Kevin, go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead, Kevin. Probably double mute.
There you go. Got it. You want to know how I know this isn't a racial thing? Who wasn't at the press conference?
Al Sharpton.
Got it. Because if this was a racial thing, and if we were going to use it, Ben Crump would be all over it, and Sharpton would be all over it, and Jesse Jackson would drag his half-dead ass out of Chicago, and he'd be showing up down in Texas. Like, that's how you know. No one is... This isn't a race thing. It's a, did you kill this person when you shouldn't have killed him thing? And it seems as though the judge is making this racial. That's the problem.
Exactly.
If this really was like George Floyd, like that idiot said before, then Ben Crump would be all over it. Al Sharpton would be out in Texas. I haven't seen Jesse Jackson in a few years, to be honest, but like, he'd be all over it. Like, the usual players are not involved here, at least not yet. Maybe Sharpton hasn't figured out a way to launder money through this.
You sound real jealous. I ain't gonna hold you.
I mean,
you mad because your community don't got an Al Sharpton?
First off,
I'm just asking
you, bro. I'm from New York, all right? Al Sharpton is part of my community, and he's been raping
No,
New
I mean
York
the white. You don't have a
30
white Al
decades.
Sharpton. Who's your white Al Sharpton?
None, because we're not fucking assholes
You're
like Al is.
lost. That's why you doing that mid-ass James.
I mean, I would argue that I would
argue
that Al Sharpton is nothing more than a symptom of the statistic that I cited just a little bit ago.
Are you actually defending Al Sharpton, Rhea?
So no, that's not what I'm doing.
Exactly what he's doing, bro.
I'm here. No, what I'm hearing
Where's
is
Tawana Broly at? I haven't heard it from her since 1985. Where's she at?
it'll take me about 10 seconds to say this. So we can't have a real conversation because y'all want to dance around it and just throw these little jabs, and then you want to give them bullshit ass stats and misrepresent what I said and not have the conversation just to push your narrative. So we gonna keep doing that. We just gonna fire up, and I'm just be real like cynical about it, or we can have a real conversation because I don't think you're trying to have one.
Well, I mean, first of all, Kevin was already speaking, and you were the one that mentioned statistics. Okay, nobody else brought it up first. That was you. We're gonna let Kevin finish what you're saying. We're gonna go to Amused. We're gonna go to Kevin and Amused, and then we'll get through the hands. We can just open it up. We can just talk over each other though, okay? Because that's not a conversation. Go ahead, Kevin. Finish what you're saying, then go to Amused.
Nobody holds the space down like Dillard's, just saying. But see, this is what I'm talking about. Is that a murder or a killing between two teenage kids who happen to be different races is now being turned into a racialized problem, and I don't think it is. Are there different crime statistics per race? Yes. Do I think race is the reason for that? Absolutely not. And I think anyone who says so has got a serious fucking screw loose. But the fact is this is being turned into a racialized episode to benefit the person who did the killing. And that is what the judge did by lowering this bail. If he had just, like every other person accused of murder, who admitted to killing someone, got held on remand or didn't have their bail dropped, this would just be another murder case in America. But because the bail got dropped by what seemingly is a more liberal judge, now we're getting into conversations that are upsetting everybody when it just shouldn't have happened. You don't bring a knife to a track meet, and then we have to justify whether or not.
And that's where the race thing is coming in. They're literally justifying him bringing a weapon to a track meet because of race.
Bro, I played. I'm sure everybody in here played high school sports at some point.
So I just want to make it clear that Jake
I never thought to bring a weapon.
Just a minute, Re-Ups. You've had a lot of floor time, brother. Go ahead, Kevin.
I never thought to bring a weapon to one of my lacrosse games. I was never like, oh, I'm running out on the field. Got to make sure I got my pocket knife with me just in case I have to.
Because we're all hiding weapons and implements and track shorts, right? Like that's something that you really have to be concerned with.
Those damn things are short enough. You can't hide nothing in those. But this is the problem. When things become racialized, it don't need to be. And for that guy, I don't know who the hell he was, saying that this is our George Floyd. Like, that was, like, we're the ones racializing it? Some guy came in here, seemed to know what he was talking about, just claimed that we were just looking for our George Floyd moment. Like, get the hell out. No, that blew me away.
I actually think the opposite, too, is, it feels like, and I said this earlier today, I feel racial division being stoked again like it was just in the time leading up to the George Floyd riots, right? Like, I have that same kind of, I feel that in the atmosphere, to be honest with you. And I think it's manufactured for the most part. Amuse, I'll let you go real quick, and then we'll go to Ellis because he's been waiting patiently. Go ahead, Amuse.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think it's the racial bent to this whole story is definitely manufactured. It's definitely, they're trying to create it. It's something crazy. So just so we know, just to settle the issue with Judge Tucker ran as a Republican multiple times, but she's never run against a Republican. She's only been elected unopposed. So she ran in 2024, 2020, and so she's never actually run against anyone. She's always been elected unopposed. So she just figured out she could run as a Republican and win. She seems like a very nice woman. However, if you want, you can watch videos of her describing how DEI is super important to her, and she cares about that, and that's the most important thing for her, and it is what it is. So whatever she is, but don't say that she's a Republican just because she's in Collin County and runs as a Republican and never as opposed, because if I were running for judge, that's how I would run. Now at the end of the day, I think, anyway, I feel like this isn't a racial issue, but we're trying to turn it into one.
It is being turned into one, and what you just described is part of the reason, right? Like there was clearly, or at least the appearance of, ideological bias or racial bias on the part of the judge, who, regardless of what political party she's affiliated with officially, has a clear track record of being pro DEI policies and racial, identity politics ideology, right? So whether you want to admit that or not, Re-Ups, I realize that triggers you a little bit, but I said, the truth is going to trigger. It's going to trigger people a little bit. We're going to go to Ellis. Go ahead, Ellis. Yeah, go ahead, Ellis. The floor is yours. Is he speaking?
I can't hear Ellis. I don't think he's speaking.
Yeah, Ellis. Are you there, sir? All right, Ellis, I'm going to drop you down. I'll bring you back up. Just requests. And I'll bring you back up. Let's go to Coyote. Go ahead, Coyote.
Appreciate it, Diligent. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, we do this every time something happens, some kind of situation. And this isn't the only situation. I'm sure a white kid was stabbed somewhere, a Mexican kid was stabbed somewhere, and another black kid. But it gets amplified because they want us to start doing exactly what we do every single time, and we buy into it, and we go into this big, race debate. And who's right, who's wrong? Because it's a history of it. That's the thing. We can't just sit down and talk about how fucking, you got a bunch of people that are racist and shit. and then you got a bunch of people that aren't racist. But we gotta make it about a kid and then bring in the stat, because that's what they want us to do, man. That's the thing. This has all been like, it's propagandized, bro. It's like we did it yesterday. The whole El Salvador MS-13 thing. It came on. They did a mainstream media gets on. They bring a crying mother out to talk about this thing, because they want us to look over at El Salvador, and that's exactly what we did. Like, we fall for it every time. But until we get to fucking just like talk about it and say, hey, and leave out the Al Sharptons, these racist people, and then leave out the liberal fucking white judges or whatever that are all these people that are fucking racist.
She's
right?
a black. She's a black judge. She's a black.
That's what I'm saying. Whatever it is, like
Christian
there's
conservatives at that.
all kinds of people are pushing their little fucking agendas and narrative, and we're going off basically like the one person that ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not us. Like we don't have that, right? But they do. So then we got to go argue for them. I'm not buying it, bro. I just don't understand. Did the dude kill the dude? I mean, that's the thing about it. Like,
here's what I got a problem with what you're saying, right? Is that the victim's family is going through it right now, right? The perpetrator of the stabbing, regardless of what you want to call him, a murderer, a killer, whatever, he is being championed as a hero by the black community right now, and that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. And so that's why I said, are we glorifying black violence? Because it seems like we are, right?
Yes, there is a glorification of black violence.
It is glorifying black violence against a white kid. Hold on. It is. I realize you're getting triggered, re-ups. Just hold on, brother. It is glorifying black violence against a white kid, whether you want to admit it or not. Like, that is the fact. There are individuals, and I'm not saying the entire black community, but there are individuals, and as well as media, which is complicit in broadcasting that shit. I saw earlier today, instead of posing it, this is how the media framed it earlier, that the Metcalf father disrupted the news broadcast earlier. That was the headline. The Metcalf father disrupted the Carmelo. No. The Carmelo spokesman decided to remove him even though he was being peaceful. So not only, right, are there elements within the community that are glorifying this, but you have a legacy media, a mainstream media, and I would even argue some media on X that are like complicit in sending this message and trying to obfuscate the truth of what happened. Go ahead, Heather.
Hey, Diligent. Been a while. Yeah, and to that note, I don't know who it was, but somebody posted a statement and they're like, isn't it like ironic that Austin Metcalf's father was asked to leave and left without stabbing anyone in the heart? And so I think that was really like, wow, full circle there. But I kind of wanted to chime in because years ago, believe it or not, I was actually like a long time ago, I got invited to a college party and I didn't know anybody but like one person there. And at the college party, something somewhat similar happened in the sense that two dudes got into like an argument, and like one of them who I guess like lived at the place asked the other one to leave and told him to leave, and they were outside, and like rather than leave, the other one like kind of puffed up his chest and picked a fight and chose to like stay and fight. They ended up getting into an altercation, and the one that was asked to leave pulled a knife, stabbed, and killed the other guy. Like very similar to this situation, and obviously claimed self-defense. And long story short, when the trial was all said and done, the jury, like, he basically was found guilty of manslaughter and was sentenced to 10 years, even though he was claiming self-defense. Like, the other guy, put his hands on him and he stabbed him in return. In the eyes of the law, they were like, well, he didn't walk away. He chose to stay there and like pick a fight and like stab him. So like, while it didn't measure up, I guess in that case, to murder, he was still found guilty of manslaughter. And so from a legal standpoint, the court system actually does take into consideration whether or not someone is like the mental state of the person at the time. So like someone, you can't just be like, oh, they touched me, therefore I'm allowed to react with lethal force. Like they actually look up, like, did this person have the opportunity to leave? Could they have gone away? Was he in fear for his life? And so there's all these surrounding circumstances that the jury in this case is going to look into, and he's going to go to jail. Like, you can't stab somebody in the heart. Whether or not he's convicted of murder, I think it's going to be reduced to a lesser charge, like manslaughter, like basically like that case that I basically followed. I actually had to testify in front of a grand jury just because I was there. So it was like, I've seen that almost something so similar play out in the legal system. And the guy got 10 years. So just wanted to share that because, you know, even people like Tim Pool, like, I don't understand. They're like, oh, it was self-defense. Like, they're trying to play like both sides. Like, oh, I don't want to be like, you know, treating one person one way and this person the other way. But self-defense, right? In the eyes of the law.
What you're talking about, Heather, and most states have it, and this is what comes down to second-degree murder, is a term known as adequate cause. And and the cause has to be something that the general public, reasonable people would say, okay, that would produce that degree of anger, rage, resentment, fear to respond that way. And at a high school track meet where two kids are probably beefing over the territory of this school versus that school, you're not going to have that adequate cause. And that's why it should not be second-degree murder. It should be first-degree murder. The other part where he's reaching into his bag, that's intent. The other part, well, you know, the people want to create the argument of defending your ground, but then you fled afterwards. So if you're doing a defending your ground and then you ultimately flee, you're not defending your ground. So every avenue to try to circumvent the first degree here in court does not apply.
You know, and to that point, and to that point, real quick, it was said on the stage earlier, and I thought this was interesting. Someone suggested that the judge was signaling to the prosecution that the crime wasn't first-degree murder by lowering the bond. That maybe it should have. That they're like sending a signal to do you realize what that implies? Right? That implies that you have a biased judge.
A lot as we know where we're from. Most of us can't tell you 2 generations past where we are from. And I've had the privilege of traveling in Africa a lot as well. And my identity is ubiquitous. Right? Nobody could tell where I'm from by looking at me. When I'm in Nigeria, they think I'm Igbo. I could go to Ghana, they think I'm Ghanaian. The average Gambian may look at me and look at us and say, you don't look Gambian. I'm just African. So, and part of the book is, there's a chapter I talk about life as a hyphen where I'm African. I think I'm from the western part of Africa. That's what I identify the strongest with, is my identity as an African. But I have a Gambian cultural background and heritage.
Give me time. I mean, it ain't like we didn't know. It ain't like we haven't been saying it. We all say, y'all don't know 1 or 2, 3 generations past where you from. You don't know which tribe you really from. You don't know what area you really from. You really don't even know how you got to Africa. You assume that you came from Africa because IT people told you.
Are different, the culture is different, the practices are different, the system itself is entirely different. So you have to look at and this is where Ben Shapiro and all the other legal guys at the federal level who like to pontificate using their law degrees but only have state practice law degrees end up failing, as they're comparing their practice in their state to the state where the crime took place, and it doesn't match up cleanly. Therefore, they end up being wrong more often than not, and they end up misleading their audience into expecting an outcome, and the outcome never comes.
That's
But
fair.
the reason that they're trying to make this racial, so everybody understands, there's people in this space might not understand it, but the reason they're trying to make it racial is because you need that for second degree. The other element of second degree is sudden passion.
But when
If
you
you
say
make if you
they,
make this
when you say they, what do
when
you
I
mean they?
when I say they, I'm referring to every person that's trying to push this as a black versus white altercation, because the sudden passion is going to be based off the argument. Well, this black kid had a fear of these white kids because of look at the culture of all these conversations they're having. So the reason it's being made racial is it's 100% for the defense of this kid to make it second degree. Because if you apply this as a kid versus another kid, 100% of the time it's going to be.
It was made racial to get his bond money. It was made racial to get the bond lowered, and it's being made racial to affect the outcome of the course of justice in the case.
It is,
and it's
Billy,
also being made racial to stoke division and for other political reasons in the 100%.
Diligent.
The two elements that you
Your
need for second
timeline
degree
is
are
off.
sudden passion.
Hold on. We're gonna. Sorry, you guys. Sorry, too many people speaking at once. But I'll let Ellis go because he was trying to talk earlier and he got dropped down. And then I'll go to you, Muse. Go ahead, Ellis. There's probably a double mute glitch. You have to wait a second and then unmute your mic, sir.
Hey, what's up, Diligent, and everybody up in here? So, just real quickly, I'm out here in San Diego. We're trying to turn California red. Also working to recall a super liberal pro-Mexico mayor in Imperial Beach, right there at the border. The reason I bring this up is because, first of all, it's disappointing to see you guys on here. It's a lot of Republicans, there's a lot of conservatives in here. Most of the black folks I've been speaking to have been on the right. So,
but there's a problem with the black kid. All the people that's upset with the judge, the black, so it's okay for a white kid to premeditate unaliving. It's okay for a white kid to bring a blade to school with the intention and purposes of using that blade. It's okay for them to drop $1 million bond bail for a white kid to $175,000. But there's a problem with the black kid. All the people that's upset with the judge, the black judge Lauren Karmelo's bail, it's deeply rooted in racism, because there's a similar case that's happening as we speak in Texas. But this time, the white boy unalived a Mexican kid with multiple pokes. Why is this white kid carrying a knife on school grounds, right? This was a planned fight. They went to go fight in a restroom, and a white kid brought a blade with him. Poked the Mexican kid multiple times, fled the scene, and the cops had to find him at his house. And the knife was covered in that red stuff. Right? His bail was set at $1 million. Then they reduced it to $175,000. And this is what I'm talking about. This white kid, Kason, brought a blade to a planned fight and unalived Jose. And this all happened in Texas. How come it's okay for his bail to be dropped from $1 million to $175,000 when he clearly planned on attacking this guy with a blade? Whereas
is lower than it is, and there's been other aspects where they said somebody's was 300,000, somebody's was 250. It's in the ballpark. You see what I'm saying? So it is typical, right? The last thing is,
I don't know about Texas,
what the
bro.
brother
I gotta
said.
say,
I'm not from Texas. I'm from California.
I'm from Texas.
There's three. Hold on. There's 3 people in Texas right now on stage who disagree with your premise. But go ahead.
I gave you a case for precedent.
We'll respond to it. I'll let you guys respond. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ellis.
Let me go on my last point, right? This is very important because I believe a lot of us, especially Mike, some of you guys who are Republicans and ain't afraid to say it, because a lot of you guys are afraid to say it. This is important, man. There's some of you guys giving very good takes, and I consider myself a strategist. So I'm in the business of getting people elected and getting Democrats up out of office. And the biggest obstacles that we have on the right are people like Jake Lang that you had up here, right? Those people on the extreme are the biggest obstacles that Trump had. They're the biggest obstacles that I have. They're the biggest obstacles that John McCain out here has, who's a very moderate Republican. You see what I'm saying? That's an issue. And the biggest problem is that we got a lot of these guys who come over here, and it's just like the crime in the black communities, right? You have a lot of people who think to be a white patriot means or to be a MAGA or to be a Republican, you have to be a little racist. And that's BS. You see what I'm saying? You have to play on the race baiting. That's BS. You're comparing.
You're making a generalization. You're making a generalization.
Let me finish. You compare somebody like Jake Lang to maybe a Tyreek. Tyreek has a book called Race Baiter. He tells you what he is. He's not running for a political office. We don't need race baiters in political office. And I'm not trying to crusade against the brother he's out there in Florida, but the point I'm making to a lot of Republicans in here, conservatives, aren't extreme. You see what I'm saying? But that does not help if you think that you have to be on that side to try to get these race issues so you can get into office. That doesn't help nobody. It don't help Trump. It don't help me. It don't help anybody running for office in the party. It doesn't help. And the last thing is you got to watch some of these white presenting people who are trying to overcompensate. They haven't been here long enough. A lot of us, our family's been here 200 something years. We've been fought. And may fight again, but we've been through this.
He's making a point for my foundational white Americans movement. I'm telling you right now, he is.
I'm just saying, but you gotta watch the people who come over here and think that to be white or to be a patriot means that you have to automatically take a antagonistic side to black people. You know why they do that? Because they wasn't here when we already did that.
So let me respond to something you said real quick though, because you made some generalizations there I think aren't quite fair. You said a lot of Republicans feel like they have to be racist to take on a political role, you did say that. It's a recorded space.
I got it. And if I did, I misspoke. I'm saying a lot of people who come, who I call them new European immigrant Americans.
Yeah. Before that, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about before that.
But that's specifically. I'm trying to speak fast so I don't take up a lot of time. But that's specifically to the guys who are new here, who feel that that's the way. Just like we see it in the black community. Some people think that to be black, you got to be a thug. You got to be a criminal. You see what I'm saying? So that prevents.
Can we agree that there are people who are using? Can we agree that there are people on either side of this issue who are using this to their advantage for whatever motives they might have? That's black, white. It doesn't matter. Liberals, Republicans. Can we agree on that, sir?
Talk show host like you who do it pretty good, right? Yeah, you guys are all using this to your advantage. I get it.
I mean, it feels like it needs to be addressed, right? I feel like that there needs to be an example of calm, civil conversation happening. That way people feel like they're being heard, because I want to avoid another summer of love. That is why I do what I do, sir.
Can I just say, I think
so. Can we talk about I think
Diligent just hit like a good point that you have to somewhat have conversations about extreme violence in any area. You can't like pretend it doesn't exist. Like there's certainly a lot of media that is using this to cause racial tension in America, but at the same time, like we can acknowledge that, you know, racism is wrong and things like that are wrong and highlight all the good on like people of all colors have gotten along for years, right? But you can also address that, you know, at different points in time, there are radical white supremacist groups. There are black supremacist groups that, you know, we can recognize that this is like a cultural ill as a result of the propaganda, the racial division, and the more the media tries to divide us, it actually radicalizes more people that get pushed into these extreme sects based on race, right? And so we have to sort of destroy the propaganda narrative, and the only way to do that is by having discussions like this, having civil dialogue, and saying, like, let's address the root cause of these issues so we can, you know, put a stop to it before it festers and gets worse.
Mic drop for Heather. She got it. That was it.
I was just going to say, you know, wow, I don't even want to try to go after that. Mike, you're my co-host. Of course you can go. I know Barbie had some things to say too. She hasn't raised her hand, but go ahead, Mike.
So I just want to say this real quick, 45 seconds. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but, you know, screw it. So I got to say, the dude, look, y'all's boy who came in here earlier saying all about this protest that's going on.
Whoa, what do you mean y'all's? This is what I'm talking about. There's so many generalizations being made.
That's what we
They're
say
in the
down here,
state,
Diligent. We call everybody y'all. That's what. That's just a
Did
saying.
you hear
It's not
Ellis
personal.
asking, what do you mean they? This
It's
is what I'm
not
talking
personal,
about.
bro. It's
Because
just a
he's
saying.
talking about the generalization by they. Same thing with y'all. Same
Everybody's but
shit.
Diligent's point. Everybody's
Specific.
but Diligent's point. It's just a saying.
Which form of y'all are you using?
I'm saying that's a saying, brother. That's what I'm saying. It's a
I know.
saying.
I need a
Let me finish.
definition because we have Yankees
Let
in
me finish
here.
my sentence because I didn't interrupt none of y'all, and there was some bad takes.
There he goes
that
with
have
it
been happening
again.
here.
There he goes with it again. Go ahead.
Right. So let me just say this. So the young man who came in earlier and encouraged everyone to come to Texas and protest and all this kind of, I would be willing to bet that the dude has never protested his cause on a Tuesday afternoon at 3:00 for no reason whatsoever, right? But now all of a sudden he's got a cause, and now watch this, he's running for an office seat. Now watch this, we need to organize all the white people down in Texas. Well, let me just say this, and Coyote could probably back me up on it. We ain't ever been real big protesters down here, right? We don't do the whole organization by races down here. So I think that when he brings his people from Florida or whoever he organizes, he's going to get a couple people show up and they're going to be walking around somewhere, whatever it is. But you're not going to get a whole bunch of Texans showing up down there to protest this event. We think it's going to work out exactly the way that it does. That's just not the way we do it. But I can tell you, my first feeling about that dude who came in and started rallying everybody started real docile, right? I'm a Christian. I love Jesus Christ as my Lord and personal Savior, which I am too. But boy, that thing got heated quick, didn't it? It got heated. And there was no representation of Christ in that cat's tone. It was absolutely, we're organizing. And if it gets rowdy, then it gets rowdy. But we're going to try to do this peacefully. What part of his dialogue and what part of his tone and inflection gave anyone in this room to think that there was a bit of peace in that cat's voice? That dude is an op running for a freaking office, and that's what that.
Hey, hold on, Mike. He's not here to defend himself, so let's.
No, but it's on the record.
Mike, what's your favorite bottle?
I mean, you should have said it then, though. Like, he's not here. You know what I mean? Like, that's not. I don't think it's.
Okay,
I feel like that's not fair.
Then I heard someone earlier speak about coming to Texas to protest.
Yeah, he is coming there. I think it would be amazing for you to go down there and say that when he protests. You're in Texas.
That would be me going up there. I'm in Houston.
Well, you know, whatever. You're pretty much in Australia.
Can I say one thing really quickly? That's
I'm sending you a bottle of bourbon, Mike.
Go ahead, Barbie.
I'll take it.
I think that the one thing that nobody's talked about, I'm not saying that race doesn't like come into play here. Of course it does, because sadly we live in a very supercharged racial climate, although it shouldn't be. I think what really strikes me here is that you have a young man who has so much anger that he thought that his only way out is to, you know, instead of controlling it, to stab somebody. I mean, why are we talking about, like, you know, what is, I don't know, I feel like there's an epidemic of like youth that are very angry, and they're very they're just angry, and I don't know why they're so angry. I feel like that is something you should get to the bottom of, instead of making it about like race or whatever. I think it's more important to actually figure out like what is the cause of this. And I mean, I know what some of the cause of this is. I think all of this, like, you know, teaching, you know, all these kids whatever they're being taught. I'm not going to go into like in depth about this because I don't really need to filibuster, but I think that it's not really a common, I mean, it's not a normal reaction. So you have to wonder like what is going on, and why aren't we addressing the underlying causes? That's all I'm going to say on that.
It is a condemnation of divine masculinity across every race in the country.
Lord, that ain't got nothing to do with it, and y'all just want to talk around it.
Out of
like,
service
I'll get to
and is
it,
now
and
using
then we want
another
to joke
firearm.
about it.
He was also on the county
joke
sheriff's
about it, and then
advisory
we'll let
council.
some
Like I said, there are
real
two people at this
bullshit.
time.
We'll talk about it. Get to it.
The shooter has been arrested.
Right, because you brought up BLM. Because you do this to want to.
It's really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you do interrupt a lot, but it's okay.
Okay, good. I'll go back on.
Let him respond.
I'll wait for my turn.
No, respond. No, you can let him respond. You can respond. Go ahead.
So you brought up BLM, right? So talk about what black people really was protesting in BLM, not the shit y'all want to make it about.
Who brought up BLM? Who brought up BLM?
I mean, it was brought up in the station.
No, bro, you brought it up earlier. You were the one that brought it up.
I only brought it up because I heard Jake, just why I made the responses about race. I never even got to my point because I was responding to a whole bunch of bullshit that I heard before I came in. Doesn't make any point anyway. Again, I heard a lot of speculation even from Alpha. You don't know what happened. There were 17 phones confiscated. Again, it's legal to carry a 5.1-inch knife.
No, it is not. No, it is not. Not on school grounds. Go read the law.
So can I finish? Thanks, bet.
Well, don't lie.
So
Don't lie
again,
to people because I got the law up. So don't lie.
Damn, can I finish?
Texas Penal Code 46.03 for those that are curious.
So like I was interrupted, no matter what you deem, it was a misdemeanor for having the knife on school grounds, right? It's a fight that happened between
Not a misdemeanor, it's a felony.
Come on, bro. Come on.
You a Mexican.
Quickly, Rio. Come on, get to your point, bro.
I'm gonna just be rude too. You a Mexican. You don't even know American laws. How about that? Fuck it.
That just means
and
that
you need to worry about them. You
have,
need to worry. No, you need to worry about them reinterpreting that 14th Amendment. How
don't
about
be emotional. Get to your point.
So we don't know that man if he was angry or not, right? And judging by what I'm hearing in this room and being in Texas, I assume that his antagonistic ass father went up to that. And that black judge, that D9 Republican conservative judge, is going to let him off. And this room is the reason why. We got a bunch of antagonistic ass people
are facing
charges. This is
on both sides.
America.
On both sides.
Oh no, I'm just sitting here
listening, a fellow
right?
firefighter.
So
like this one guy, there's Jay
I don't know.
And
Jordan Hastings. Because I brought
some things. Yeah, he literally just told him that he didn't know what he was talking about because he was Mexican.
I sent you some
and then you're gonna say,
I was being an asshole. But I sent you some things.
I mean, you discredit your argument when you do things like that. I hope you realize that, right?
What about Jake? I mean, Jake was doing it the whole time.
Jake's not here. You know, like Jake was getting pushed back while he was here. Now he's not here, right? So what about what? Talk about something that's being said now.
I sent you some things in the back channel that I made a point about. Similar case. He was let out on 175 bail. I mean, let's not speculate. Like,
but it's the victim stance,
let's
bro.
wait.
I can't do
let's
it
wait until it comes out. I think it was wrong for him to actually, not just fight. I said that in your space a couple of days ago, right? It should have been a fight.
Let me ask you something.
But for you,
let me ask you something, right? Do you feel like that your stance towards the perpetrator, the alleged, perpetrator of this crime, do you feel like that is racially motivated? Right? If it wasn't for race, then you wouldn't be so advocating so hard about this case, right? So to put it on everybody else to say, oh well, y'all are only saying this because it's race, or oh well, you only have a problem with the bond because it's race. Well, I mean, your position rests entirely on the race of the alleged perpetrator, the same way that many other people's positions, rest solely on the race of the deceased. So, like, to call somebody out for something that you share a bond with, I think it's a little hypocritical. Let's go to Stephanie. She's been waiting very patiently. Go ahead.
Hi. I want to do what I always do and try to back this up a little bit and look at it logically. Please do not interrupt me. I swear to God, I'm going to go off on you. I respect you, but you're kind of not making sense. Let's look at it this way. Okay, I'm in Dallas. I'm another person in Texas that's in this room, but I'm also in Dallas. I know the area well. Frisco it's a very kind of upscale community, which does not matter. But the fact is, it's very diverse. If you look at these kids everybody's basing everything on perception. Okay, a lot of it has to do with race. Both sides of the coin, white and black, or in between, always jump in and start bringing things up. But the guilty party, whichever side it's on, is the one that cries it the most. The very first thing that people start doing is deflecting and saying, it's about race, it's about race. Let's look at the facts, okay? It is illegal to bring any kind of weapon onto a school property. That's undisputable. I can tell you that right now. Regardless, we're looking at intent, okay? Metcalf was there, the white kid. He did not have any weapons on him. Carmelo, why? You have to say, why do you go to a track meet as a kid with a knife? Regardless of that, okay? Regardless of what the kids said to
because
each other.
that's because of the reasoning I've heard is because that's what kids do at their young age, and the only reason why we're asking why he had a knife is because he wasn't white. That's the rebuttal I hear to that.
okay. Well, right and wrong. Okay, let's look at that. Let's look at the way. Okay, we've got to at some point get this mentality back to where it should be. All right, so this kid shows up with a knife. They get in a fight. What happens to going to blows? What happens to just saying things to each other? No, the first thing this kid does is whip out a knife and stab him in the heart. You know, I'm sorry, that is not okay. And for anybody to have that mentality as a kid or an adult, there's something wrong with them. You know, it's just too violent. Okay. Two, when you look back at the social media, and I'm not saying everything is based on social media, but both of these kids, they went to a diverse school. The Metcalf kid, when you look at it, up until the day before he was killed, he is posting pictures of all of his friends at school, his track meet buddies, not a white face in there. He was not a racist, okay? Whatever, all the pictures that they're showing of him with guns online, he and his father and family were avid hunters. There's a difference. The Carmelo kid is posting himself on social media, and I'm, you know, perceptions, whatever, but he's got an assault rifle, he's flipping the bird. It just, you look at the different mentality of these people is what I'm getting at. Look at his mugshot. He did not look remorseful. He has not expressed one iota of remorse. And in fact, he looks defiant. Every picture you see of him when he's on TV, and I know part of that is his team behind him, he has zero remorse. That right there tells you something. That kind of person has got to be held accountable. If I was
and imagine what the message is with
right
like championing him as a hero.
Exactly.
What is that telling him? Right.
Exactly.
What is that telling his? What is that? What is that telling his peers? Right. What is that telling an entire demographic in the United States, who I'm sorry to say, you know, is already has a proclivity to violence. Right. You're now telling young teenage men that when they get into a fight, they are justified in homicide as a defense, right? Anytime they feel
Like
scared,
Daniel Penny.
anytime
Like
they
Daniel
feel scared. You know, Daniel Penny. Well, first of all, Daniel Penny was a grown man. Second of all, he was defending African Americans when he was exonerated by a jury of his peers, sir. That's a major difference there. You're drawing a false equivalency, and that is a logical fallacy, sir. I suggest that you look it up. I suggest that you look it up. We're gonna go to Stealth. Go ahead, Stealth. Sorry, Stephanie. Thank you. That's a mute glitch.
Diligent.
Go ahead, Stealth.
Diligent. Can I ask you? Can I just throw this out there? That picture that she was referring to, of him holding a assault rifle, that was an airsoft gun, and the uncut picture is him in the photo with two white kids and a black kid.
Yeah, I don't
Austin
find
Metcalf and Karmeloanthony both were primarily surrounded by a mix of races of kids and had no issues
she
with
made that
race.
point. She made that point is what she
I
was
just
saying.
wanted to clarify for everybody in the audience that this had nothing to do with race. It was just an altercation, people.
But also in this country, we don't convict people based upon how they look. They have a presumption of innocence.
They can commend
we
water.
should afford him that
You're
presumption of
saying
innocence.
black
I don't know
folks
why.
created that name white supremacy.
That's correct, from Africa, because we are just amazed by the things they've done. Well, we describe them always by inventions. That's all. They can command water from far away through tubes into their bedrooms. We can even fetch a bucket of water from the next lake. You will be drowned. They can put electricity. We never had one in Africa. They have airplanes fly over us. It's amazing. Everything they've done is the reason my people say these people are superior. Not because of slavery. They came to colonize us and they brought things we have never seen before. They gave a king a mirror and he was dancing and sold his people away. They brought guns we have never seen. Boom, and killed somebody right away. You know what they used to do in the Congo? They put dynamite in the rocks and then they hide the switch. And then when they point their finger, it goes boom. And the Congolese till today, they call the white man kiboom, the sound of the dynamite. And then they go down and they go like this. If they're not superior, why do you see every picture when the white men arrive in Africa, we bow into them? We have never seen a gun kill a human being. We have never seen a mirror. We have never seen a radio tune in and somebody speaking from England, the Queen's voice. So for us, all these things, this vote must be really superior and close to God. They used to have a joke in Ghana that when God said, let's pray, the white man opened his eyes. The black people were covering his eyes. So the white man saw how God created the world. That's why they are so good at what they do. And I'm telling you, these are folklores from which we grew up. If anyone told you that white people came to Africa to tell us they're superior, it's a lie. They never said that.
For the bail amount, which is set at $1 million for everybody, for it to be lowered. That's one thing. I'm sure you guys have discussed it, but that's one thing that was an outlier in this case, because we're literally just at the preliminary issue, which is the bail amount. The fact that he's a minor, or he's technically under his parents' control, but the parents know as well that his child could be facing life in prison. There is a flight risk component as well that was brought up by these large defense lawyers down in Texas. The kid himself said that that he had killed him and reported that obviously to the police, that he was the one who had stabbed him. The question is whether or not the community is really in danger. This doesn't seem like it was like wasn't a premeditated. There was intent because he went into the backpack, but it doesn't. It is a hair trigger situation. So the question is could there be another hair trigger situation? And you have to determine that, and the judge should have evaluated that accordingly. The next thing is they go through exactly what happened with the thing. There was no racist remarks between either of them to each other in that stabbing.
Although I've heard it said, I just want to say about that. I've heard in other spaces, and I've seen it on the timeline where that claim is being made,
right.
Where racial, yeah,
right.
and that's
and
there is no evidence of that, no
correct.
evidence.
Correct. So she asserts that that it was trending and was run by some left-wing large media accounts were trending it. She does say that they should be responsible for defamation as well of the boy who died, the victim. So the worst case thing is you could imagine is where Austin did say something racist. Let's say the boy did, the victim, but there's still no one alleging that. But that doesn't account for his activity. So because he initiated the first act, he laid hands on first, and then you still cannot pull a knife out on somebody and stab somebody in the heart, and be the one, because he provoked the attack. On your response, they cannot be out of proportion. So you can't claim self-defense for that reason, is what Jesus says.
You can't, the castle, I'll just save you some time. The castle doctrine, or the stand your ground doctrine in Texas, clearly states for self-defense, if you are a provocateur at all, it completely nullifies the self-defense.
That's correct, Diligent. Yeah, so they go through that legal summary as well. Most importantly, the response to the force being used against you in all 50 states of the Union must be proportional to the threat that you perceive, right? So you may not use a knife or a gun or any other means that will obviously cause death or risk serious bodily harm if that's not what's about to happen to you. So there's the police affidavit, obviously, of the arrest that supports him later saying to the officers that he was defending himself, explaining, quote, he put his hands on me, I told him not to, while, quote, crying hysterically. The affidavit said Anthony also asked if Metcalf was going to be okay, if he was dead or not. At the point he already apparently knew he was dead, but of course I'm sure the young man was in shock, as if anybody would be in that circumstance. Also, one other point that I just want to say here is there's a comment here by, I think Steve Deese was on the show. It was about the fundraising, and I think a lot of the fundraising component is very offensive, and I don't know what's true or not true, because there may be propaganda about the cost of the house and the cost of the car and all these things. It could just be a mass slandering, and it could just be that they moved him to a different house for the safety of the family, and it's being leased out, and it's closer to the court or the area or whatever the reason.
It's noteworthy that Fox and some of the other news media, the mainstream media, did walk back their stories, their reporting that day. I can concede that.
Yeah. So, and again, I don't know about the car or anything or the imagery around it. Obviously, he's wearing a very expensive suit. That was another one of the issues they had. Again, you know, it's about image and PR, and I get that, right? People don't need to call that out. He stabbed somebody in the heart, and the boy died. Period. Full stop. Everything else is accoutrement. In other words, everything else is rhetoric or.
But I think the thing about the fundraising is right. We see the racial undertones that are being used to call for fundraising.
Right.
And so then after what happened with BLM, people, you know, are very skeptical.
That's right.
When it comes to these things,
100%.
and I think rightfully so.
Right. So you're a very good point, Diligent. So what Steve says is, it's hard for me to understand of people giving money to the person who committed the murder at this point, and why would decent Americans take, you know, food and money from their table and give it to this cause in particular for him and his defense. Now, everybody's entitled to do whatever they want. You can donate to anything you want. For him, it's a moral question, and I understand that. So you have to keep the moral and the legal status of this aside. We know that when your child is going through a criminal case or everything, typically one of the parents can't work because they're taking care of everything related to that. So you can understand people get fired in these circumstances. They're afraid to go to work. There's many, right? You're dealing with your child killed somebody in cold blood in Texas, and it's a huge racial context underlying this. So I can understand that they need money, right, to live. I need to see both sides from the argument, to be fair. But I hope that what is not being said is that there's any gross misuse of those funds for inappropriate things. I guess that would be the most offensive thing, on top of obviously.
So we had discussed this the other day in a different space when they were comparing, and this is where I think it is kind of a fair comparison, which is the fundraising for Daniel Penny, which I was not aware of. It got into the millions, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So like I think that when we start to, you know, it's a little wishy-washy there.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard to really kind of criticize too much.
I think Diligent, because Daniel Penny was looked at as somebody that was doing a service to a group of people on a subway who had been.
And that's a distinction I was trying to make to re-ups, which is, you know, and he was also acquitted by a jury of his peers.
Yes.
Like he went through the process. We don't have to speculate as to what happened there, right? The justice system worked what it did. If the justice system goes through and it does what it does in this case, and let me just say, Daniel Penny was in New York. Okay? That is not a conservative or Republican bastion of freedom, right?
Exactly.
Okay, he was
and
acquitted.
A Marine, Semper Fi.
Yeah, and he was acquitted in a hostile territory as far as politics goes. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Drawing a comparison between the two, I think, is a false equivalency. But I need to go to.
I just want to make one final comment.
Stefan. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, he left. Damn it.
The desensitization of a crime like this, the stabbing of somebody in the heart, it's shocking. Let's just put it this way. He could have stabbed him anywhere else. You know, he could have. You know, we know that knife crimes are very dangerous. It's one of the most dangerous things. People don't realize the extent of it. The crime is atrocious. We know this. And you have to look at it just between these two. You can't go back to other cases or compare it to other. It is independent. A parent's life, a child's life was taken, a twin brother. This kid's life is going to be in jail for life, most likely, is what they're predicting. Everybody loses here. But there cannot be a desensitization of crime like this.
There is a desensitization of crime like this, though. And that's the callousness at which people are talking about, the rhetoric, right? The rhetoric over this case, and not just this case. If you look up in the jumbotron when I was talking about earlier, that the shooting in Florida. There's a dude who just casually strolls by one of the victims as she lays there, shot, bleeding, and helpless, recording her and sipping his Starbucks, right? He posted the video, not somebody else. He posted the video. So not only did he do that, but he also he tried to glorify it by posting it online.
Diligent. I'm sorry to say, but after October 7th and the live filming of
I'm not gonna make
people
this. I'm
killed,
not gonna make this about. Come on,
that
come on,
kind of
come on, bro.
leads to where we're at.
Usually, hold on. I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay, usually it's the Jews people, right, that are doing this on my stage, and now I just want to highlight for everybody that it works both ways. Okay, it's not just it's the Jews people. It's the other ones too. Whatever you the Islamists. Yeah.
Diligent, I just like
I
to
don't
push
even
back
know
on
what
what
to
she
call
said
it.
too
I don't
about
know
a
what to call
parody
it. But we're
case, right?
definitely
There
not
is a
going to bring
parody.
that into it. Like, we're not gonna. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Not doing it.
Diligent, there is a parody case right now. Case and Allison is actually going on trial right now as we speak. His bail was reduced from $1 million to $175,000. So there is a parody case. When you said Stealth that it was unprecedented.
Well, so that was what re-ups.
Same judge? Is it the same Texas? Is it?
Yeah. Was it like what were the circumstances similar?
Yes.
Well, read them. I mean, tell us what they are.
I can't. You had me on a mute. It was a double mute. It is similar. So if you look it up, we're actually going to discuss it tonight with Judge Joe Brown. Please tune into that 10 p.m. with Dana with the Data. The case is a individual who was in high school. He was set upon allegedly by a group of other teens, but it was a one-on-one fight. So 5 teens go into the bathroom. They're goading this individual, Case and Allison, into a fight with another kid by the name of Ramirez. They go one-on-one. Kaysen pulls out a knife, stabs him multiple times. The
but you're talking about 5 people in an enclosed.
No, Diligent. Listen. It wasn't 5-on-1. It was a one-on-one
But there
fight.
was but still, you just said that there was 5 other people with him. Whether or not those people were directly involved with the fight, it doesn't mean that there wasn't a potential for them to be involved with the fight. And they were were also in an enclosed area, not out in the middle of a tent in full view of the public.
I agree.
Those are not similar circumstances.
The point I was making, trying to drive home, is that his bail was reduced as well. So it was reduced from $1 million.
But again, the
to
circumstances were different with the case.
But how does the circumstances go towards the reduction of bail?
Okay. So I can't hear. Wow. Okay. I feel like.
What I'm saying, Diligent, is how does what you're saying go towards the reduction of bail? If you're going, the bail is produced so that
So the individual who used the knife, right? Can you start again? Were the 5 people were they all friends of the individual who had the knife?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So exactly. So here's my point: is that if I was in a bathroom where there's no ability to get help, I'm cornered. If I'm in a bathroom where I'm cornered and there are 5 individuals who are not my friends and I'm getting into a fight, there's a lot more likelihood I'm going to be in my fight or flight mode, with all it takes, as opposed to being in an open tent where I have time to get my back.
Here's the second part of what you're saying.
They both had a knife at school.
Wow, why is this triggering everybody?
Can I respond? The point that I was making is that the bail was reduced for that individual in similar circumstances, meaning that he had a first degree.
Exactly, it's not similar, bro.
I can't even get out what I'm saying without somebody getting apoplectic. Why are you getting apoplectic? Let me finish my statement.
You spoke. I wanted to ask you a question.
You're cutting.
Let me help you. Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you so much, Diligent. So what I was saying, it's similar in the fact that he was charged with first-degree murder, and that the judge at the bond hearing for a reduction went over the circumstances that would allow the judge to reduce the bond, and it was in fact reduced to $175,000, which is $75,000 less than Karmelo's bond was reduced to in this case. They went over the same factors. It was not the same judge, but the judges use a rubric that they're going to go through so that there is uniformity in what they're doing. Because if there's an invitation or an impropriety that is suspected, it invites it invites people to look at a case differently, and
it
then
discredits the justice system, is what it does.
Here's the distinct difference between the two, though, Diligent, is in the case with Karmeloanthony, and this is where I was going to tell Stealth, you got to be careful with saying it's not premeditated. He knows the knife was in his bag. We know this because he reached into it. So if you're at a school function and you make the premeditated decision to go into a team's tent, it's an opposing team, it's reasonable to assume that that's going to induce a confrontation, whether verbal or fight, it's reasonable to believe a confrontation is going to ensue. And if you have the knife present with you and then you're going to reach to grab it, that is premeditated. Just because you may not have forethought murder in that, that's law.
But
That's law.
the student handbook says the student
Guys,
handbook.
one at a
Can I ask
time,
Alpha a
man.
question?
Hold on. We're going to let Alpha finish what he said, okay? And then you can respond, Re-Ups.
But could I ask Alpha a clarifying question?
Well, just let him finish. Alpha, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a completely different situation between you're in the bathroom, a group of guys come in there, and all of a sudden you're going to get jumped. Yeah, that reasonable people would think, I don't know if it's just going to be one-on-one. I don't know if it's going to be 1-on-3. I'm going to pull up the knife because it's a completely different situation as to oppose Karmeloanthony going to a location he knows he doesn't belong at. I'm assuming most of us have played sports. If a rival team or even an opposing team, doesn't have to be a rival, if an opposing team comes at your bench, especially a captain of that team, the kids are going to expect, hey, you're going to stick up for our team. So you're expecting a confrontation. So the fact that he had the knife in his bag and he knew it because he reached into it shows that he had forethought that there was a weapon in his bag before he even got to that tent. You could make the argument for a premeditated murder there. And with that argument needing to play itself out through at least a preliminary hearing, this is way too early to have a bail, to have that kind of reduction. Now, if they would have went to preliminary hearing and all of a sudden new facts come to light and it's like, okay, this was more defense or no, he didn't know that, then you can reduce the bail. But to reduce the bail at this point, when you haven't even gone to prelim on a murder case where the suspect is saying, yeah, I killed him, that is completely unprecedented.
Okay, so
Alpha, did you see that message I sent you?
He did say I could go next.
Is that okay?
Yeah, you actually no, because you.
Can I just ask Alpha? So the Megyn Kelly and the legal guys were saying that there was intent because he reached into the backpack. Premeditated would have to be if he had maybe texted people before or communicated people before that he was going to start shit with these guys. Something to that effect would have had
that there was pre-planning there.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, premeditation intent are different.
Let me just, I think there's going to be a lot of speculation here because on one side, he was the only one armed with a knife when he went into the tent. You know, the prosecution could definitely make the case that he brought the knife there and went into the opposing team's tent with the intent of, you know, doing something of that nature, right? So because I think that you're making a presumption on the self-defense statement that, or, you know, that's the defense that they're making, that this wasn't the case. I think that's something that's going to have to be washed out during trial, to be honest with you, because we don't have
go inside somebody's mind, Diligent, right? You can't go inside somebody's mind. So we infer intent through action, right? When you're at a trial.
Yeah, and again, bringing the knife to the tent where he was the only one armed with it, you could infer premeditation. You know,
so he didn't bring the knife to the tent.
It definitely doesn't rule it out.
Wait. One thing that's not being brought up is his actions after the incident, right? So if you guys read the police report, I read the whole police report, and some of the things actually struck me as odd that he said to the police. So, like, for example, one officer said he must have been using his walkie-talkie or something, but was telling somebody else that he had the alleged suspect, and he corrected the officer and said, no, I did it, I'm the suspect. So he took ownership of it right then and there. Then there was another mention where...
So, Heather, could that not be perceived?
Hang on. There was another mention where he specifically was questioning the cops on whether or not this could be considered self-defense. Almost as if, like, prior to the altercation, he thought, like, if he can, you know, provoke somebody to touch them, and in response, it could be considered self-defense. That's what it came off to me when just reading the report. Like it's really odd questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so could you not take it as, hey, I know I did something, I was defending myself in that case? And I would like to say, in the case that I was trying to get through and mention to you, bring up.
But I mean, if he knew he was defending himself, why would he be asking the officer if it could be considered self-defense?
It would be considered a spontaneous utterance.
It's
considered a spontaneous utterance, which happens as a result of something unprompted.
Yeah. And to Alpha's point, if you read that student handbook and all the laws, because of the inclement weather, he was allowed to be under any tent, right? So if you want to take it back to that, I posted that too.
But I mean,
so
yeah,
and to the boys in the bathroom, he actually did have a knife in the school bathroom, you all, in school. So we need to apply the same things. This is why the case is similar. This is why I sent it to you.
Just because there's similarities doesn't mean that they're similar, right?
Yeah,
but
and
I mean,
think, like,